us. As Justin said, this project is very dear to our heart, and I think in order for us to, before we can jump into it, a lot of you are familiar with the Restoration Partnership, but there are some new members, and for those online, I thought I would just kind of go over a little outline of what I'll talk about. Bunker Hill Superfund site and the natural resource damage assessment. Those are two things working in tandem under the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation Liability Act, or CERCLA. Touch on the Restoration Partnership, who we are. Then we'll dig into the project up Big Creek, which is up in the Silver Valley, all the partners involved, and how the project was implemented. So as you all know, since time immemorial, the the Coeur d'Alene people have been here in this area, caretakers put here by the Creator to care for Coeur d'Alene Lake and all the natural resources there abound. The tribe initiated the first natural resource damage assessment lawsuits against the mining companies, aside from when EPA was assessing human health and the environment. So I would be remiss to not mention that I am very honored to work for the Coeur d'Alene tribe and to carry their water as we get through all of the restoration in the Coeur d'Alene Basin. You guys have all heard about NERDAR, right? Nerds, NERDAR. This is that hat under CERCLA that really looks at restoring, rehabilitating, or enhancing the areas where there was injury to natural resources due to the release of hazardous substances in the environment. Ours are historic mining waste. And so under the NERDAR program, it's a kind of a unique program that is housed under Department of the Interior. And with as it being housed under Department of the Interior, the federal government identified trustees, federal, state, and tribal trustees to act on behalf of the public to address injury to natural resources from releases of hazardous substances. So this is what I'm going to be talking about. Sharon's wheelhouse is super fun, so is mine, but today we're going to talk about, we're going to nerd out on nerd out. Advance a slide. Let me click it over. Okay. Thanks. So the Restoration Partnership, back in the day, it was just Department of the Interior with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, BLM, Department of Agriculture with the Forest Service, and the tribe. Those were the trustees. And for 28, almost 29 years, we proved up injury to natural resources due to the historic mine waste in the Coeur d'Alene Basin. There were some pre-settlements early on. The state settled their CERCLA claims against the mining companies in the late 80s. Mining built Idaho, and it wasn't in the interest of Idaho to pursue any more lawsuits. However, they didn't settle with Hecla. So when we came back to the table to negotiate with the last mining company, the state of Idaho came and joined us, and they are represented now under the partnership with all of us, BTQ and Fish and Game. They share a seat with the partnership. We have a trustee council, our bosses, they make the decisions. At the technical level, Wade and Doug Evans and David Bandery with Fish and Game, Bob Steed with DEQ, and Fish and Wildlife Service is kind of a rolling position right now. We all grind through the technicalities of restoration planning and project development. So here are some of the injuries that were proved up. There were many that were looked at. We even turned over rocks. The Aufwuchs, my favorite German word. You can mess that one up, Jim. I know you love to do that stuff. We did not prove up injury to lost cultural services, which is a really big deal in Indian country. Things are changing now with a little bit with the Code of Federal Regulations where tribes are able to prove up lost cultural services, but it's very, very hard to put a monetary value on tradition, culture, church. How do you put a dollar value on that? So the tribe, working with our attorneys, looked at the resources and said, you know what, if we can restore all these resources, we will restore those services that they provide to the Coeur d'Alene people. So Tender Swans, classic, you guys see those every year, especially when we have weather like this. Not looking forward to the migration this year, fortunately, but they were the easiest bird to prove up in court because they were big, they were white, and Judge Lodge was moved by the fact that these big, beautiful swans were found dead on the landscape. So 28 years later, we proved up injury. We had early settlements. I know with Sandy and Jeff in the room, you guys probably remember these days. Some of the de minimis parties, like Zanetti's, things of that nature, or people of that nature that really had small mining claims we proved up and just settled out quickly. And then the big ones were Sarko and Hecla. In 2003, you all might remember Sarka was on the brink of filing bankruptcy. So the tribe stepped aside and said, you know what, let's settle with them. Federal family, you hang tight. We're going to get a little bit of money out of these guys and do some early on restoration. So when you hear about the Schlepp Ag to Wetland project in the lower basin, that was funded from some of those early settlement dates.
Rebecca, what is a Sarco?
American Smelting and Refining Company.
Oh, okay, so it was a company in the refining mining business.
A big company,
Okay.
international actually.
Got it.
And I think they're still functioning.
Like bought by Mexico, Grupo Mexico, they have a subsidiary still, Sarco, they have some small operation in New Mexico. But yeah.
When they
Mostly overseas.
operated the core and Polina mines.
And a ton of smelters.
Okay.
Love it when So we settled with Hecla in 2011. That was the last mining company that we needed to settle with before we started developing a restoration plan. We went through the National Environmental Policy Act process because of our federal family. It took about 7 years, which to some folks doesn't seem like a lot, but it was to us. We really embraced the process and went through the NEPA on our own and wrote the restoration plan. Because we have all this data, this historic data of all the injured natural resources, I mean, it's just amazing the data set that all of us collectively with our federal family and state and the tribe have. We knew where the injury occurred. We know where the birds fly, we know where the fish move. And so we utilize that data set to point us on the ground to look at restoration project potential. When we did the public scoping process, we heard loud and clear from the public that they want us to do restoration here in the Coeur d'Alene Basin. There was chatter years ago about going up to Alaska and doing some enhancements for habitat for tundra swans, because that's where they migrate from. We're right in the heart of the Pacific Flyway here. But the public said, no, we want to see that restoration here. We settled for about $140 million at the end of the day. And so very strategic process that we went through. And this is the basin this is our restoration planning area. It's very similar to the Superfund boundary, except for the upper North Fork and the St. Joe hydrologic unit code. That's not included in the Superfund cleanup. And there was no injury here. But this is under the world of the Natural Resource Damage Assessment Program. You can compensate for resources that were lost. So where we know, I guess I could use my little pointer.
Not on the screens, yeah.
Pointless. Where there's still a lot of work in the lower basin with EPA doing the remedial action. Probably not the best suited area to do active restoration in areas we know they're going to get recontaminated. So we do have the ability to go offsite and do some compensatory restoration down in the St. Joe watershed district.
So I just like to add that,
Please do.
Rebecca, because the fish are one of our injured resources, right? So the bull trouts and Westlow cutthroat trout from the St. Joe go down to the lake, which was contaminated too. So it's kind of like a real fine split there, but so we can acquire the equivalent of in the St. Joe what we lost from the North Fork and South Fork. So that's why we include.
Thanks, Wade.
You bet.
Wade's a fish guy. So yeah, Wade's totally correct. So this is the planning area. You'll see that it stops at Washington. Washington was not a party to our lawsuit, so we don't do the active restoration in Washington. And you'll see the reservation. This was a tough one to navigate, but we were able to get the Hayman watershed that doesn't flow into Coeur d'Alene, but it's very culturally significant to the Coeur d'Alene tribe. And you can see how it overlays with the tribe's Aboriginal territory. Originally it was about 5 million acres, now it's about 345,000. So it's been diminished over time, but this is the project we're going to talk about right here up Big Creek. Just as a reminder, Dave, I want to ask you, what is remedy versus restoration? Do you, now looking at the slide.
So remedy sounds like when you're coming up with ideas, restoration sounds like you're actually getting your hands dirty.
Oh.
That's my gut reaction.
I like that. That's good. Remedy is the term of art that EPA uses when they're doing a cleanup action, remediation, where they're removing the contamination. In this basin, you can't take the contamination off site. Well, actually under Superfund, you can't, it's by law. And so they store it in repository, things of that nature. Restoration is kind of the icing on the cake of it to say. We go in and do the restoration, work with trying to get streams back into sinuosity. And this is a Metamont. This is a really cool project. I don't know if you want to talk about it, Wade, or you want me to.
Yeah, I'll just kind of like add on to the remedy and the Metamont project's a good thing. We did not remove like all the contamination there, but what we did is we separated it from people being in contact with it. So like doing a paving or a soil layer like you see in some of the cleanup stuff. So same thing there. So we we paved the parking lot and then made it inhospitable to use the banks there, but did a really good job for the aquatic species and erosion control on that. So I just want to kind of remedies come in all different kind of levels. So the restoration it's clean and we can use it and not be afraid of it in a natural type setting. So yeah.
Bottom left is that schlep active wetland project that I mentioned. EPA did the remediation, scraped up the contamination, put some against the embankment of the trail to core lanes, and then we worked with Fish and Wildlife Service and went in and did some active restoration habitat enhancements. Okay, now to the point of the story. That was a quick little snapshot of 30 years. So after we adopted the restoration plan in 2018, it was time to go out and solicit for projects. We had some that were shovel ready and house we knew, like the tribe and the federal family had the state. But we went out to the public and said, okay, do you have any project ideas? Tyson Klein, who a lot of you guys remember, worked for DEQ for a long time, and then at Sunshine, is the environmental health and safety
Manager.
He has been looking at the structure of Big Creek for a long time. Wade's been looking at it probably your whole life.
20 years at least, yeah.
As a fish passage barrier. It was utilized one time by Sunshine Mining Company as a water intake structure for their operations, but it hasn't been utilized in a long time and fish can't get over it. And so Tyson's like, this is a clean stream. I remember when I worked for DEQ, we had bird data, we had fish. Why can't we do some type of restoration here? No contamination in Big Creek. Very exciting. Very few streams in the Silver Valley are lacking of heavy metal contamination. So we ranked it through our criteria, which we have as a tool for us. So we're not just saying, yay, let's do it. We have very specific guidelines we follow. Darn, I hope you're not taking all this. We'll meet later for that. And so we met with Sunshine and they wanted to be a partner. It was very exciting. They wanted to provide some cost share. We had some of that habitat data already in hand. And so met on site, met up with, I don't even know, HMH, you were working with Sunshine, another project.
I'm not even sure how it got started.
That might have been the first one.
Yeah,
Is that the first?
And it was through the chamber that we got to
Yeah.
H&H.
yeah.
Oh, it really? Here?
Yeah, right around the same time.
It
Building
really-
partnership. Yeah.
And so that connected us
Mhm.
to connect to the restoration partnership.
There you go, Bree. There's a
Type everything.
So I can't remember what slide is next, but I just want to mention here, when we jumped into this thing, we weren't quite sure who owned the land. Come to find out, BLM owns land. So we brought in Doug Evans, who's part of our group, and went at it and started having meetings. And the tribe was asked to be the sponsor. So with all of our projects, and you guys are going to hear more about this in the next handful of months when we go out again to solicit projects, one of us has to be a sponsor. The tribe, the Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife, DEQ, Fish and Game, BLM, which means we work with the applicant, Sunshine Mine, for this project. The trustees say, yes, we will fund that. Funds come out of the NerdArt fund, which is where we're holding all of our settlement dollars. They come to the tribe and then or whichever sponsor, and then we work with the proponent to get them paid bills essentially. This is a fish pass barrier project. At first we were calling it dam removal. Sometimes we do on the side, but we want to be careful with our terminology, like climate change and climate education. We knew that we had cost share. We knew that we had multiple partners. There were going to be permit needs. HMH really stepped up to help us start to navigate what those permit needs were there.
So this was such a fun project. it was just it was a neat partnership, being able to work with the owners who very much wanted it pulled out, owners of the land, the different agencies to really work through it, and then having the expertise of a bunch of different people. Like, I can't tell you how many times I bugged Wade while we're out there about fish stuff and habitat restoration. But this project, and it kind of blew my mind. I think we talked about it a little bit later on about how much work on the front end goes to a project like this. I mean, really, when you look at 20, 15 years of starting to get that ball rolling, design was 9 months to a year, somewhere in that range, and then construction was, I think, 30 days.
Yeah.
You know, so you go from a funnel of work down to just
30 days.
very quickly. Yes, I mean.
That's sad.
Wow. But I want to say we went out and surveyed, golly, would that have been early 2025, maybe into 24? Went out there, and this area is unique, and it's just kind of the confluence of every agency. So we, with projects like this, right, we're in the water. So we're working with the Corps of Engineers, we're working with IDWR, Idaho Department of Water Resources, and then that spreads out to DEQ, Fish and Game, all the state agencies that have something to do with waters of the US. And so we're doing some removal, we're doing some placement. Additionally, we're in a floodplain, floodway, so this requires a no rise. Wade was super stoked to do a bunch of HECRAS modeling on this one. And so we had to develop a hydraulic model to show that as we remove the fish barrier, and as we redevelop the stream and as we more naturalize it, it doesn't cause a rise in water surface elevation. So a lot of rising. Additionally, we have to look at the environmental and cultural side of this, right? So we brought Jim Mormon in, she helped out with the cultural investigation, worked a good bit with BLM on the NEPA side to get that figured out. And I am weak in that, the Lord's here to help out for all the cool fun buzzwords. And so we got it cleared culturally and environmentally. We got it cleared permit wise through Waters of the US. We got it cleared through FEMA. And then throughout this whole process, I will remember, and we may have a picture of it, Tom put together a tracking sheet there, a Gantt chart, so we could look through and see what we had going on. And him and Rebecca and the Restoration Partnership worked together to keep the project on track, right? Seeing how everything, all the moving parts, all the balls in the air to keep them going. And here is that picture. I love this as we were going through, and we got to meet and go through, all right, this is what we're doing here, this is what we're doing there. But the biggest part of all of this is this was a project timeline. Once funding was allocated, we're able to get to go and do some work, right? So it was that 18-month, almost 2-year window of getting work done out there once funding was available. And that's kind of what we're talking about. We had design for about a year. We had project permitting for about 6 months of it. Bid and contract a couple months, and then actual construction as we're getting through there. This project was really neat to work through on the design and construction. So I'm trying to see if I have any pictures, or any plans. We went through, and it is a true removal and restoration project, right? Like we model it in our hydraulics to make sure that we feel good about the water surface elevation. And then our plans could have been a simple remove and just a big circle around a dam and you're done. But in this instance, we really wanted to create a habitat that when people come by in 2 weeks, in 2 months, in a year, you don't see that there's ever anything man-made out there, right? Like we come back together and it just looks like a stream that has always been there. And for people that are not familiar with the site, that's the intent. You drive by, you're like, oh, that's just that's Big Creek. And folks that have been there and known a long time, I am really looking forward to somebody that does not know this project going on, drove by and like, there was a dam here, I'm sure of it. And I love the way it's somewhat naturalized. We'll come back and kind of show you some pictures there. But the design intent was remove that fish barrier, regrade the stream, because you ended up with a pretty big gradient difference upstream and downstream of the stream, right? That fish barrier is starving the downstream from sediment. So it just starts cutting down, cutting down, cutting down. And I want to say it's a 6 to 8 foot grade break from downstream of the barrier to upstream of the barrier. So it'd be a big old fish to jump that thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of regrading, and a lot of it we designed on plan and paper, and we get out there. Kip McGilvery was his outfit, they did the design. I remember sitting there with Wade and Wolfgang and we're looking at stuff and like, I think this needs to be tweaked. I think we need to move those rocks here. And so there's a lot of, on the fish and restoration, to me, there's always been a lot of, when you're out there, what's it looking like? Let's shift this over, makes more sense. Let's move that around. And that's really fun, right? I've always pictured like you've got a big painting and at the end, like, we're gonna just finalize this a little bit, make it look a little bit better, not follow exactly how it goes. So it's a 2-week construction window. We got out there, we had to remove the sheet piles by crane. They ended up removing sheet piles by crane. I think we could have dug down and got them out. We removed the sheet piles by crane, which was super fun to watch. I've never seen it before. They had a vibratory head pull them out. But if you remember the first picture where we had the dam, right? It was brown, it was crossing the creek. And for you folks online, you can't really tell what I'm pointing at. But if you look where there's this big rock near the top quarter of the page, the dam was just on the other side. You can still see the hole over there where it's scoured out. So went through, pulled the dam out, rebuilt sides and sides. The intent of this design was to keep Bay Creek away from the road, to want to push it towards the slope so it didn't cause road failure. Additionally, this fish barrier was originally created as an intake for mining operations, right? So we wanted to maintain the ability for the mine to pull water out.
And it still is.
And it still is.
There you go.
That's right. We were able to put in a drywall system that pulls water out. It is hidden behind these rocks. So if you're feeling real froggy, you can go out with the metal detector, find where the lids are. But the intent of that design was to also hide the infrastructure, so it looks very natural. And so the mine will still be able to pull water and meet their water rights. We put several barbs down here to maintain and push water off of the stream bank. We have a few of these veins, there's another word I'm looking for, that basically set the elevation of the creek and don't let it down cut. When you first disturb a stream, especially with the extensive amount of work this had, we basically moved this channel this way and then this way. So we've shifted it left and right. So it's now flowing in areas that did not typically flow for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. That sediment is pretty soft, right? We've been running equipment over it, and so it'll move quickly. This winter and spring has been fairly intense for runoff. We're not getting freeze. Water's just pouring through there. So this creek is naturalizing pretty quick, and it's awesome to watch. What our intent was to push it over to this side. We put Wade knows we put too much fill on this side, and I think you're right off the bat. They're like, "Oh, that's going to be gone." It is. The creek is moving away from the road on that west side of the bank, and it's pulling away a lot of that material, which in the long term is kind of great. I want there to still be a hole by that big rock. If it fills in a little bit, that'd be great too. And so watching that stream become what it's going to become over time, quickly than we anticipated, is pretty sweet. I think it gives the vegetation a chance come spring to really grow and set. We're going to go out and Doug and us, he's going to provide some seed. We're going to go out and broadcast a bunch of seed, try to get it growing up. You'll notice there's not a lot of trees on this roadside embankment. There was a couple there that we had to remove. We left the one that we did not impact, so we're hoping more will sprout out. But given a few years, I think this will revegetate pretty well. We left, you'll see there's a few boulders up here. I think we moved a couple of those, but we left somewhat of a parking maintenance area. Over time, as the mine ever needs to get in those dry wells, we'll be able to. If anybody ever wants to go to find a fishing hole, we got one right here for you. Parking spot right next to it. It'll be great. But the main goal of this was to open up a large chunk of Big Creek to fish passage, right? And so we have opened up a fairly long stretch of it. There's still more work to do, but this is a big win to get out of there. I love the partnership of working on an owner where we were able to really kind of push the schedule and work with a contractor and get stuff figured out in the area. It was a unique bidding mechanism that really helped out on that front. So that was great. During construction, so part of the design, we knew we'd have a lot of riprap coming in that we needed. We were looking for rock out here. thought there'd be a boatload. There was less riprap buried than we thought. Some of the riprap that was buried was so big we couldn't quite move it. And so it was great. We're looking out there and trying to figure out what to do. And Wade was like, I got an idea. And so he got us some locally sourced riprap, which was great. We were able to quickly move it in sight, keep the project going, and bring in material that is adjacent to the site that we're working on, not material from across a river or that does not fit with what we have there. So that was really great to work with.
What word are you using? Riprap?
Riprap, big boulders.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
I don't know how I got the
Technical
word. It's one word too, which makes it really fun. Every time you type it, it pops up as it's not a word. But yeah, I don't know where the term riprap comes from, but it is typically anything larger than a foot.
Mhm.
So.
Big enough,
Big rocks.
big enough so that the stream doesn't scour it away, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it can't move, the stream doesn't have the energy to move it, so it's stable.
And we've got some good ones. So typically we do riprap by diameter, D50, so that average diameter, 50% diameter. And these stones are 3 and 4 foot stones. These littler ones are about 2 footers. But we had some big, I'm trying to remember.
Kip's Rock.
Kip's Rock right there.
Kip's Rock, yeah.
Yeah. There's a big rock in the middle of the stream adjacent to the road. It's kind of tan. And that was the contractor, Kip's Rock.
I spent about 4 hours placing it just perfect.
He's kind of
I
able
didn't
to
see
see
it.
it.
Yeah, we're gonna tweak it.
Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm seeing there's a lot of fine, relatively fine sediments up. Are you starting to recruit coarser sediments up in this upper little
Yes.
riffle?
What's really cool back over here is the last time I was there, it is mostly cobbly big gravels. And these fines are just slowly
They're
winning
starting
their
to just
way
work
out.
their way out, yeah.
Yep, just working their way out.
In its day, it was a dam, so it had been excavated out of all the natural rock.
Right.
So it just filled in with gravel.
It was really neat pulling those sheet pile out. I think they were 12 footers, if I remember right. And they had been together, they were, gosh, 3/8 of an inch,
Or 5/16 inch.
5/16.
Yeah.
I remember, yeah, because you said that, like, no way. It was some of the thickest sheet pile I've been around. And it had fused together, so as they were trying to pull it out with the excavator, they're popping chains. We could have dug down farther and I think really pulled them out. The vibe helped, but that structure was built fairly heavy duty for holding back a lot of material, and it worked. I was happy that there wasn't as much concrete down low as we anticipated, so that was really nice. And there was a big intake structure in there that was a lot easier to pull out than we anticipated. I thought that was gonna be a bear. But that was pretty great. So here's a couple of mid-work projects. I see Kip is in the excavator. That's me down at the bottom. Wait, is that you up there talking with the crane guy?
It could be. I was there that day.
Yeah.
And so this was the most
Real,
intense
never-
portion of it. By the way, the crane guy was the grouchiest contractor I've ever worked with. He was bad about everything all the time. He's gonna die young.
So you got it because something went missing over the weekend from what I recall.
Oh, yes. So if you're working at Shoshone, make sure you know a contractor like Kip, because they came in there and they stole all the batteries from Coeur d'Alene Crane. They didn't touch any of McGilvery's stuff. So I was like, all right, next time I'm out there and just put like Kip's logo on my stage. Several $1,000s worth of damage and stealing set us back, I think, 4 hours, something like that, before they were able to get something going. To give you a quick little back on these cranes, were just so much fun. So you'll see the green thing hanging off the red hook on the crane. That's the vibratory head. We don't have a picture of it right now, but basically he would come down, grab a sheet pile, turn it on, and it vibes so hard that wherever you're standing, you can feel it shaking. It's a tiny little earthquake, and it pulls out like hot knife through a butter, right? Just pulls it right out.
It was literally a hot knife. Those sheet piles for 6 feet down would turn molten metal to
Yeah,
break the rust weld to bring those sheet piles out one at a time. It was impressive.
it was so cool. I've never seen them before. They would glow and steam, and sparks would shoot out as it was coming up, and it was just the whole time. So you couldn't touch them. They're very warm. But as they pull out, you will notice downstream, not a lot of turbidity, upstream, a lot of turbidity. We have a silk curtain up there that worked to varying degrees. But the intent was this within the permit. As we're pulling out sheet pile, especially in the stream, it's gonna get a little bit turbid. So let it sit down for a little while, let the turbidity drop out until you get below the 50 NTUs, sit down and then do it again. And so we had a few of those we had to pull out and get squared away there. We had stream, we were moving the stream around to help out with that. We should have moved around a little bit more, would have been great, but overall, we're able to get it out within, I want to say 3 days, and rebuild that slope. The orange box on the trailer, that is the generator to run the crane. So you have to provide enough power to actually run that vibratory head. The crane itself operates on diesel, goes around. That generator is just for this vibratory head. You'll see all these wires going across the creek, running up to that box. I have no idea how much electricity that was, but it had to be an incredible amount that would fry everybody. And just to keep it going, it was as loud as could be, and it was a really neat experience to see. See what other pictures we have. Here's another couple more of them. Taking the Tom, I think that might be you down there, pulling out some of the sheet pile, bringing it across, and dropping it over. So basically, we had a contractor working on one side of the creek, grabbing the sheet pile, putting it across the bank. Contractor to the other little mini hoe would grab it, bring it up, set it to the side, and move it on. We lucked out. There was very little traffic except for one guy who drove weirdly fast to go shoot his gun at the rock pit every day. And then the other folks with the dog, they would let the dog out and just run them up and down. And so we got to see some neat folks out there, but traffic was a minimal concern the whole time. And I think it's really due to when the project occurred. We lucked out, man. We started the first day it snowed. Like, oh man, here we go. It was warm and rainy the whole time. It was great construction weather, especially for not have to compact. You couldn't have planned it any better.
Hunting season just closed before.
It was, the timing was fantastic for getting this project done. Here are a couple little, I think one of these is a video. I don't know if it'll
Maybe
play.
click it again and see if it works.
It does play. So we love drone videos because they're just fun to watch. And so this is after construction is let down. I do want to say, if you ever have the chance to get up here during the fall when the leaves are dropping,
It's gorgeous.
it is gorgeous. It is kind of magical. I've put on some boots and walked downstream where you're away from construction and the leaves just like snowing on you. It was just a really cool experience. But here she is flowing. So you'll notice wide and shallow floodplain right now where the water's flowing. The intent and the idea there was to make this wide enough that Big Creek could find her own path, right? We gave her the option of like, where do you want to go? We want you to be over on this side, which I'm pointing to the west side, but where are you going to go? And so if you go out there now, the creek is on this west side, which is on the right-hand side of the screen right now. It's digging into this embankment that we built up, which is fine. And so we were wanting to push it off, and on the screen left, which is the east side, we're starting to see a lot of that cobble grow. And in some places, I think they've covered the barb or pretty dang close on some of those barbs. And I love that idea. If we can build it out and those barbs become hidden, then it looks very naturalized with structure and reinforcement below in case we have a big event. But yeah, this is her. I think we might have another couple pictures in here afterwards.
Oh, geez, that goes on for a long time.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the drone's going. So
Okay, maybe you might want to stop it so we don't get sick.
So not rarely, it is uncommon to see this much water. I want to say this is January. No, this
Just after we finished it.
yeah.
Weeks after.
Yeah, just
Same place.
That's the same place. So water is, Big Creek will move, right? It's called Big Creek for a reason. And you get in there sometimes and that water's high and you'll hear big old riprap, big boulders going down there. You can feel them. But typically that's spring runoff. Like if you get a hot day, a lot of rain, and then a big rush of water coming through. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen, which will be west if you're out on the site, we're starting to wipe away some of that material that we placed. There's much less water running against the roadside, which was a big part of this. You can see it starting to build up on this picture on the right-hand side, starting to build a little bit of bank over there where it's dropping water, and the thalweg's kicking over due to those barbs. This one was from last week, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that little cold snap we had.
Yeah, so Wade went out and took a couple pictures. This almost looks like
Natural stream.
it looks like a natural stream. It kind of looks like a picture you'd see as a postcard.
Looks like artwork that you would do.
Oh.
Brian painting.
So I love it with the ice down there. You can see that the water, the creek is really pushed off to the right on the left-hand side, picture left. There's a lot of buildup there. This is that big old rock on the left-hand picture. That's the big old rock we showed early in there. That Wade was taking a picture of. We think it's connected to bedrock.
Yeah.
Comes down there. Cause he just kept, Kip just kept digging and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And so here's a couple more pictures looking downstream. You can see the cutting on bank left or picture left. West side bank, you can see the buildup of the cobbles over here. It starts collecting debris and cobbles. And I'm hoping over time, as we get bigger floods, this just continues to build. We get vegetation, it socks in there pretty good, and then it's tight and it's there for a very long time.
Is that the tree that you left?
That's a tree. Yes, yes. We have high hopes. I was looking at them, I was like, how's that thing gonna fall? It's a big old tree.
It'll eventually.
It will eventually.
Maybe, who knows when, a decade, but it's habitat, it's large organic debris, and I'd like to see more LOD in there.
There's also organic debris now in the stream after that.
Yeah, there is.
Famous fall flood.
Yeah, I see that one. There's.
Yeah, we're getting a little snag in the stream.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we added a couple pieces.
Yeah, we got a little bit here, a little bit there.
There.
Good driftwood, some mantles if you need any. But yeah, the more habitat we can put in there. Fish habitat. But the more debris we get in there, the more fish habitat and the more natural that, because no matter how well you build a stream, at first it always somewhat looks like a road. Like we're building with dozer blades and we're building with excavator buckets. Getting a little bit of movement and water and getting stuff to stick and move in and create a natural environment is really fun to watch. I've always liked these pictures where it shows the moss growing on the rocks. I just think it is super cool. So that's just a fun one. Yeah. With that, with the lessons learned.
No.
So Wade is just over here like he has so much he wants to share. I don't know if he wanted to add
Good.
anything else, but as far as the construction goes. I mean, we learned a lot of lessons. I think that casting a wide net during construction, going out for bid is the wise thing to do. Shoot elevations, and that was something that Wade was on top of booking the engineer. He was
Yep.
on site every day. Having an engineer on site every day was super special and essential. He was able to see the natural processes happen in real time. This happened over the federal government shutdown. And so everybody was furloughed except for Wade, because he's special, not. He's essential. So funded through Restoration Partnership dollars, he was able to be on site. It was pretty stressful though, knowing that our federal family was all struggling. So having this project, I think, was kind of a saving grace for our sanity. Working with a private company was really fun and unique, and we were able to be creative with some of those field mods that needed to happen. We didn't have the as-built, so we did not have the design of the structure going into construction. We do for another project that's upstream, which is great. So kind of go in a little blind's eye. Maybe we didn't need the crane, but it was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And then master services agreement that Sunshine has with HMH and McGillivray allowed us to move quickly, which was exciting. Yeah, field mods, 2 weeks. We all had common goals, good pictures. This is a standing around watching the crane, by the way. It's a good partnership. And it takes a village. Yeah, 2 years of meetings and
Yeah.
grinding through all of those things. Wade is just a huge right arm for me when it comes to these types of projects. He looks at the natural processes and knows it's gonna be ugly a little bit during construction. You're gonna see a little bit of turbidity every once in a while, but let the stream heal, and knowing that we're gonna go back in the spring and do some plantings. Anybody wants to come? And we are looking at a structure upstream, which is really exciting. The Central Shoshone Water District. Use of it's a huge structure in the stream. It's also a fish passage barrier. We are starting to work on that project, which is gonna open up more of the watershed, so.
So I'll just add on that, removing this dam gave us 2 more miles of West Slope cutthroat habitat availability for fish moving up and down that system. People may not know, but Big Creek has West Slope cutthroat trout in there that can be up to 16 inches long if they can get to where they want to go, right? And they may not stay there, they'll go back down like the fluvial type West Slope. But this allows to have a lot more spawning and rearing. And as Rebecca said, we got another project coming up. We get that one done, we're gonna have a total between these 2 projects of 14 miles of migratory passage for West Slope cutthroat trout in Big Creek, which is a huge thing. So for us and the partnership, I call these big bang for the buck type projects because we get all that habitat. So, and we're gonna move fast on the Central Shoal Water District Dam, a little quicker than this one because it's kind of a rinse and repeat, as Justin used to say, has said on this. So we should be able to get through all those processes a lot quicker. And hopefully we will start on that thing this spring.
We have our meeting next week.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe a little dynamite.
Oh, that'd be so much fun.
Okay. I've got it in there.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to.
And I do want to put out Tom and the time. It was great working with you guys to have the flexibility and the pushing to get this project done.